War 15 has released lately. And if you've been on any type of FGC sector of any social media platform, I mean, you can't help but see it unless you following like just, only Nintendo or something. But so everybody's been talking about it. I've just been seeing like raving. I've lost my word that fast. I've just been seeing like great things about it. Everybody's saying that it's fantastic. I mean, you're always gonna see a little, somebody could come give you $1 million and they'd be like, why it ain't 1,000,001? But so you see things every now and again. Some people talk about the lag input, which is, a legit concern. I've heard other people talk about the bosses aren't as hard as they know the KOF series to be. But other than that, I mean, raving reviews, that's the word. There it is, raving reviews. So give it over to these fighting game gentlemen that know more about it than I. We'll let them talk. How do you feel about it, Mr. Game and Lift? What are your reviews on it? What have you been seeing? If you played it, what do you think about it? Let's go.
Well, I've only spent a small amount of time with the game, and that was when the last beta came out. And the game felt pretty good. Looks good, like in terms of visuals. And again, like I mentioned on the last podcast, that I mean, y'all know if y'all watched the episodes last year, man, y'all know I was not feeling KOF 15, man, from what they were showing at first. The trailer, I just really got tired of seeing jab, hard kick, throw. Like I had an opinion on how they were doing the trailers for the characters. They really weren't making them like exciting or anything, like making me like, oh snap, he can do that. Did you see that combo? Just like jab, medium punch, sweep, super, cut the super in the video. Like, all right. But they made strides. The game looks really good. I mean, as always, a plethora of characters, and even more in store. We got 4 DLC teams in store. 2 that we already know of. People. I'm sure people have lost their minds. Maximilian probably being the number one. If they see Rock Howard, he's in the game. Well, going to be in the game when he comes out. Max has been doing his impromptu character release where he draws like, so this is Rock's jacket, so he's finally got him in the game. But yeah, I mean the game's you can't not see it. Like Rexon said, it's on Twitter everywhere. People posting matches, people posting tech. It looks, like I said, I'm pleased at how the game is, come out. Looks decent. Looks like it plays pretty well. And it looks like people are really enjoying it. And I hope that this trend continues, because when a game first comes out, there's 2 things to be expected. At first, it'll probably be received fairly well. Like, oh man, this game is so great. Like this is like that new car smell, that new, like oh man. But then you got to give it some time and see if people still keep that same energy. And just like Rexon said, the game could be a 10 out of 10 and be like, man, why it ain't 11 though? Why y'all ain't give it? Why? I mean, it could be 11 though, like or something like that. Oh man, I don't like the way the box art look. This game trash. Like just some very arbitrary stuff, just some nitpicky stuff. But I will say, it looks like SNK has a pretty fine product with what they put out. Definitely better. It looks better than what their last rendition of KOF, because KOF 14, I'm not gonna say it was the worst game ever, but it was a game. It had characters in it and visuals. I'll say that.
It started out when you put it in the system.
You could press buttons and it had sound and stuff. But I mean, it looks pretty cool. Again, there's a lot of people, like even myself, I'm more partial to 13. 13 has a special place in my heart. It was like the first KOF I really got into and really started playing. Love the visuals, the effects, the sound. The game was great. I mean, it was one of those games where it's like it wasn't even easy to get into. Like a lot of games, like, it's easy to learn, hard to master. Like, no, it's hard to learn and it's hard to master. So it's like you just gotta take it. You just gotta be like, I'm gonna just do this. Execution. It seems like, I'll say, from one thing I've seen, that at first I thought from the combos they were showing for the trailers, like there wasn't gonna be a lot of like long combos. But it seems like there's some, there's some kind of swaggy stuff, like some loops. Robert, he got the loops in the corner with the super. I don't know if that'll get patched out. I mean, it's
It recently got
basically
patched out.
okay. I was because I mean, it's not like a infinite. Well, I guess if he has an infinite meter, but I mean, you dead. I mean, you can't do anything about that if you get hit by it. So I figured that was going to get patched out. Yeah, I haven't seen like any really super cheap stuff yet, any crazy tech yet, because I mean the game is still new. But
you gotta
people
play
still.
it. That's all it is. You ain't played it yet.
I mean, but it does look good. And I'm just happy that the game has come out and it's being received pretty well because it would have been kind of bad for SNK to have two games back to back that were kind of like iffy for lack of a better term. We even talked about this before the podcast started that honestly KOF 15 does look like a really solid game, but it kind of looked like the KOF that should have been alongside Street Fighter 5. And now Street Fighter 5 is going into its next, so Street Fighter 6 probably gonna look insane, so KOF still gonna kind of be like a foot behind, kind of like two steps behind in a sense. But yeah, it looks decent. People seem to be enjoying it. The game I'm actually anticipating most is DNF Duel. KOF 15 was on my radar, but it's like, I could play it. But that's the game I really enjoyed that beta so much. I was like, I gotta get that game. KOF 15 is kind of one of those games that was like a toss-up for me, but it does look good. I will say, playing that beta, it felt good. So y'all enjoy it. It's out. Enjoy the game, man. It shattered. I hope your expectations were shattered.
I'm sure they will be. I'm sure people will play it longer than we play Fexel. So.
Wow, man, your hate for that game is immeasurable. No, but I have KOF 15, and I will say that I know that the tweet that you sent us, Rex, on Alioun's tweet about how mechanically it feels like they didn't sacrifice anything with this KOF. You know how the conversation for like a lot of recent fighting games is that they've kind of sacrificed the depth to make it easier. Strive and Street Fighter 5, and it feels like with KOF 15 they didn't do that. I'm not gonna pretend to be a big KOF head like that. I didn't grow up playing KOF, like, to be honest, and KOF fans don't come at me. For the longest time, KOF was kind of considered like poor man Street Fighter. I mean, it just is what it is. It's just kind of how
general
it felt.
Consensus. It was about the general consensus.
I will say that over the years, I've seen, as I've been exposed to more KOF, I've seen how different it is and how good of a series it is. Like, I've even been watching like the lore videos to understand the story for KOF, and it's just really cool. And my first time really getting into KOF was KOF 13. I really enjoyed the style of it, the combos. I'll say this: I sucked at the game. I was a complete and utter novice at the game, but I enjoyed it for what it was. And I'm hoping to really get into this one, to really actually be at a competent level with it. We'll see how that goes. But just based on my short time with it, I got it this Monday and have been dabbling with it throughout the week. I haven't played online, but I've been doing like the mission mode and just kind of getting used to the characters that I want to play. And so far, it feels like KOF. It's not... Execution-wise, I will say that some things are a little bit easier, but it still has this KOF isms to it. Like, it's not as hard as 13. I know with 14 they made it easier. Now I feel like this game just follows that trend of making it easier to jump into it. It has auto combos and all that, but there is definitely like a ceiling there. So it's one of those games where I think it's easy to get in, but there's still like this ceiling in terms of like a skill ceiling for it, where of course the game just came out, so we haven't even remotely reached that yet. But we'll see how it goes over time. I will say, people praising it right now, I agree with Game and Lift. Give it a month. People saying this is like the best thing ever. Give it a little bit of time, because the FGC is very fickle. Everybody will play their flip-flop cards in an instant. So just give it some time, let it breathe, give it a month, let the meta kind of evolve, and we'll see, how this turns out. But just as it is right now, I think it's a very solid game just from what I've played. It looks great. It plays great. Other than the input lag issues that PS5 and I think like PS5 and PS4 have, because to my understanding, out of the console versions, the Xbox versions have the least lag, and then of course the PC has the least amount of lag. But that just seems to be the story of this generation. Just seems like PC just might be the way to go for fighting games if you want the most optimal experience. But just from what I played, this seems like a very solid KOF, and I hope it does well. I hope that this is the best-selling KOF that. I hope that this will be the best-selling KOF. I'll put it that way. I will say there are some gripes that I have with it, just in terms of content. Maximilian, actually, I know we're bringing him a lot up this episode, but he talked about, like, last night I watched a stream where he talked about how it feels like a lot of these recent fighting games are kind of stuck in the arcade era. Like the way that they're made to feel more like arcade editions and not like actual full console releases, if that makes any sense.
Mhm.
And it just feels like the stuff that King of Fighters 15 has, like the tutorial is very bare bones. Like my probably one of my biggest gripes with fighting games now is feels like at least a lot of the mainstream ones, like a lot of indie fighters, they're great about telling you how to play the game, but it feels like a lot of the mainstream ones, they still don't have good enough tutorials to really teach you what you actually need to know. I don't mind going to Dust Loop and like other places to find out like more in-depth stuff. I mean, as games evolve, the community is going to create sources and guides that you can look at to get better at the game. But when the game itself doesn't really teach you like just the basics, it feels like there's kind of like wasted potential there. I don't know. Just like the input shortcuts and stuff like that. It would be really great if the game taught you more about how to play the game, you know. That's just my take on it. The mission mode, you don't have like the hard as nails KOF 13 trials, but I don't think we really needed that. I know there's been some discussion about how KOF 13, like the trial videos that people put out, may have kind of put KOF in like a negative light in terms of making it seem like this super ultra difficult game that's just impossible to get into. And maybe the fact that they have these combos that are kind of scaled back, um, is kind of like their way of letting people know it's like, hey, this game isn't like this finger destroying thing that you think it is. It's like this is very accessible. You just have to take your time with it.
Have the
Um,
SpongeBob fingers.
so yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking of. Yeah, just overall, there's more I could say about it, but just overall, I'll say that this is a very solid release, and you know, well done to SNK. They listened to us in regards to making the netcode better. Like this is the first mainline SNK title that can be played online. I'm not counting like them adding rollback to like previous KOFs and whatnot. In terms of like newer games, this is their first release where we can actually play it online and enjoy it. You know, I think Samurai Showdown would have been much better had it had better online. And so it's just really good to see SNK follow the path, you know, Arcs is, and hopefully Capcom as well, and a bunch of other developers who are hopping on the rollback train and making their games solid. I mean, you're able to play them online. So overall, it's a good game. You know, give it a time, give it some time to breathe before we call it like the greatest thing ever. But I think just as it is right now, this is week one. I think it is a very solid release for SNK. So good job to them.